Okay, so the economy. It seems huge, right? Super complicated. But what if I told you that at its heart, it's actually built on a really simple, elegant idea that connects every single one of us? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and see just how it works. Let's get into it.
So let me ask you something. You ever really stop and wonder, where does your money go after you spend it? I mean, you buy a coffee, you pay your rent, you get that paycheck deposited. Where does all that cash actually go? Does it just, disappear into thin air? The answer is nope, not at all. And it's actually pretty cool.
Believe it or not, it travels in a circle. Yeah, a circle. The money in an economy doesn't really have a beginning or an end. It's just always moving, a constant, continuous loop that powers literally everything around us. So in this explainer, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to follow the money and trace that circle.
All right, so to really get how this whole flow works, we've got to meet the main players in the game. Now, for our purposes, we're going to keep it simple. There are really just two key groups we need to know about. Think of them as the main characters in our economic story.
Okay, so first up we have households, and that's us, you, me, everybody. We're the ones buying stuff, right? The consumers. But, and this is super important, we also own all the basic ingredients that make an economy run. We own our ability to work, that's our labor. We own land. We own capital, our money. Then on the other side, you've got the firms. These are the producers, the businesses. And what do? They take all those ingredients that we own and use them to create all the goods and services we buy every day.
So how do these two groups, households and firms, actually connect? Well, it's definitely not a one-way street. They are totally locked into this constant back-and-forth exchange. And it's this two-way exchange that creates the circle we've been talking about.
It all starts with us, the households. We provide something economists call factor services to firms. Now that sounds a little technical, but it's really simple. It's just all the stuff firms need to produce things. We provide the land for them to build on, the labor by working for them, the capital when we invest our money, and even the entrepreneurship, the ideas and risk-taking to get businesses off the ground.
But, we're not just giving all this stuff away for free, right? In return for all those services, firms make what are called factor payments right back to us. And this should sound familiar. For the land, we get rent. For our labor, we get wages. For the capital we provide, we get interest. And for that entrepreneurial spirit, we get profit. And boom, that right there, that is how income gets created in the first place. It's a payment for the resources we provided.
Okay, so we've got this loop, right? We provide services one way, and money flows back the other way. But if we zoom in a little bit, we can actually see that there's two separate flows, two different loops happening at the very same time. It's like a dual-lane highway.
Let's break it down. First, you've got the real flow. Think of this as the stuff. It's the flow of actual, physical things and services. Our labor, our land, our capital, that's the real stuff flowing to the firms. And then the finished products, the goods and services they make, that's the real stuff flowing back to us. But at the same time, perfectly mirroring this, you have the money flow. This is the cash. Money flows from firms to us as income. And then we turn around and spend it, so it flows right back to the firms. Two loops, one for stuff, one for cash, moving in opposite directions.
And you can see why that money flow is so important. I mean, can you imagine a world with just the real flow? We'd be stuck in a barter system. It would be like, hey, I'll design a website for you if you give me 50 loaves of bread and a new pair of shoes. It would be a total mess. Money is what makes the whole system work. It's the oil in the engine that keeps everything moving smoothly. So we can actually break this continuous circle down into three main phases. You can think of it like a three-act play that just repeats over and over and over again. These phases are production, then income, and then expenditure.
So here's how it works. First, you have the production phase, also called generation. This is where firms make all the stuff, the goods and services. Then comes the distribution phase. All the value that was just created gets paid out to us, the households, in the form of income, wages, rent, all that. And finally, you get the disposition phase, or expenditure. This is where we take that income and we spend it. We buy the very things the firms just made, and that sends the money right back to the firms, and the whole cycle just starts all over again. It's a perfect loop.
Okay, so we get the process, right? We see how the circle flows. But how do people, like economists, actually measure all this activity? Well, to do that, they have to make a really important distinction. It's kind of like the difference between taking a single photo versus watching an entire movie.
So first, let's just define a quick term, an economic variable. This is just a fancy name for anything in the economy that we can measure and that can change over time.
Things like wealth, income, production, you get the idea. And these variables basically come in two main types.
The first type is called a stock. A stock is a measurement at one single specific point in time. It's that snapshot. It's static. A great analogy is the amount of water in a bucket at this very second. The other type is a flow, and a flow is measured over a period of time. It's the movie. It's dynamic. So it's not the water in the bucket, it's the amount of water coming out of the tap per minute or per hour. See the difference? A flow always has a time dimension, per year, per month, whatever. A stock doesn't.
Let's look at some real examples to nail this down. A country's total wealth, that's a stock. It's a number you can measure on a specific day. But the country's national income, that's a flow. It's measured over a whole year. Or think about your bank account. The exact amount of money in your account on January 1st, that's a stock. But how much you save during the year, that's a flow. The total number of people in a country on March 31st is a stock. The number of babies born in the year 2025 is a flow. It always comes back to that same idea, a snapshot versus a measurement over time.
So what's the big point of all this? What's the main takeaway from our simple little model? Well, when you put all these pieces together, the households, the firms, the real flow, the money flow, you find something pretty amazing. You discover a system that is, at least in this simple form, always in perfect balance.
Here's what that means. First, the total value of everything that gets produced by firms has to equal the total value of everything that gets bought and consumed by households. In this simple loop, everything that's made gets sold. And second, the total amount of money that firms pay out in wages, rent, and profit has to be exactly equal to the total income that all of us households receive. Think about it. Every single dollar a firm spends on production becomes a dollar of income for someone.
Which brings us to the final point of balance. The real flow is always equal to the money flow. The value of all the stuff and services changing hands is perfectly matched by the value of all the cash that's flowing around to pay for it all. They're two sides of the very same coin.
So that leaves us with a huge question, right? If this basic system is always in perfect balance, then why are real-world economies so messy and complicated? Why do we have booms and recessions? Well, it's because our simple model here is missing a couple of key players, like the government and the rest of the world. In reality, money can leak out of this circle, when we save it or pay taxes, and it can get injected back in through things like business investment or government spending. But, and this is the key takeaway, this idea of a perfectly balanced system isn't just some abstract theory. It's the fundamental principle we use to measure the health of our entire economy. Ever hear of GDP, gross domestic product? Well, this is it. Economists can measure GDP by adding up all the production, or by adding up all the spending, or by adding up all the income. And you know what? Because of the circular flow, all three of those methods should give you the exact same number. So this simple, elegant circle, it's not just a neat idea, it's the master key to understanding how the whole economy really works.